Hi, it's Nick. The reason I'm making this video is to show you how I install the light in the Army switcher. And also this fella that usually watches my channel, T-Man, the Train Man. And he asked if I would demonstrate how I did it. But before I actually do the installation of the light, I want to explain a couple of things. One, in 1959 or 60, I installed it by securing the light fixture to the frame of the engine, which is a cast, and I used solder. And the solder at that time had lead in it, so it was easy to bond to the metal. So what I did was I unsoldered it and I cleaned everything, and I tried to solder it with this solder they have now, but of course they don't have lead in it, so I just couldn't do it. So what I'm going to be using is a two-part epoxy. And another thing I want to explain, this is the front wheels of the switcher, and it's held by a pin which has these little prongs, and I try to unfold them and they just snap. So I don't recommend whoever's going to put a light in it to take the front wheel off, because it's just going to break. Now what I have to do is to use a screw with a nut to secure it. So I don't recommend that you take those pins off. Do it with the truck on it. You can push it to the side. It can be done. But since I have it off, I'm doing it without it. I think that's about it. So I'll start to install the light fixture. Of course, as you know, the first thing you're going to take this body off. There's two screws which I already took them off, and it just comes off. And as you see, the metal frame, they just dropped off. And then the back one, you have to pick it up a little bit, and it'll come right off. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in my vise. And as you can see, I put two pieces of wood in here and secure them with tape so that I won't have metal on metal and damage the front part of the truck. And I'm going to flip it over, and we'll put it in and secure it like so. Now where I'm going to attach the light fixture, and this is the light fixture right here. Now as you can see, this particular one has a piece of metal, and I made this shape so that it would fit the way I want it to fit in the switcher. But the newer ones, they just have a socket, and what you can do, and it'll have a hot, and then it'll have a neutral coming soldered to this side here. So all you can do is get the epoxy and just glue it, epoxy it this way. But since I had this little bracket, I'm going to put it in this position, and the bracket will be attached to the cast. And what I'm going to use is the epoxy. But first you have to make sure that you clean the surface of the metal, and also over in this area, which I've already done. And now I'll get the epoxy. And the epoxy that I'm using, you can of course use any one you want, is the quick weld. I had it in the house. So we'll put a little, and you don't have to use very much. That should be about enough right there. And we'll get the other part, just equal amount. And all you have to do now, as you know, is just mix it. This particular one, it gets sort of it's black, turns black color, you know that it's mixed. Now what I'm going to do is get some of this and apply it onto the body of the engine. Just swing the camera over a little bit. And yeah, you could see that right in this area. Like so. And I'll put a little bit on the metal, right, can you see it? Right in this area here. Like so. And now I'll put it in. I'm coming up from the bottom. I'll line up where I want to put it, which is right about there. Now I have this clamp, and in the clamp I have a piece of wood so that the clamp won't stick to the two-part epoxy. The piece of wood, if it does, it'd be okay because I can always cut it out. I'm just trying to line it up so that it's where I want it. It's kind of awkward because I'm trying to not do it but not get my hands in the way so you can't see it. And it's a little slippery. And what I also going to do is just put a little bit more epoxy on it so she'll stay where I want it to. That's about where I want it. And I'll get the clamp and clamp it so it'll stay in that position until it dries. Just making little adjustments here. Like so. Yeah, that should be about it. So now it says within a couple hours it'll cure, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it cure overnight, and then tomorrow I'll make another video where I'll actually hook it up, the wires to the engine, so that when it goes on the track it'll get power and then the bulb will light. So until tomorrow, I'll end this part of the tape and we'll continue it tomorrow. Take care now. Bye. Hi, it's Nick. It's the next day, and I just want to see how this epoxy cured. So let's take the clamp off, and it looks like it really cured pretty good. I'm putting a little pressure on it, and it's staying. And there's that piece of wood that I told you I used so that the clamp won't stick, and of course the wood did stick. So I'm just going to get a little knife and just scrape that off. Okay, let's just trim it off a little bit. There we go, a little bit more. That should do it. Okay, now what I'm going to do is turn the engine over so we could get at the wires and we can start soldering it. But there's something I have to tell you, much to my surprise, and that is when the epoxy cured, I was concerned whether the frame of the light fixture was going to conduct the ground through the body of the engine because of the epoxy, but apparently it did, and all I have to do now is just solder the positive wire, and the bulb is going to light. And this is the wire right here, and I'm going to solder it to this connection right over here, which is the positive of one side of the coil. So we're just going to solder that piece and put the engine on the track, put some power on, and the bulb should light. But for some reason, if it doesn't, when you do it, what I did is I have this wire right here, and I soldered a clip. And what I was going to do, I'll get a little light over here. Right here, there's a screw. It's a Phillips head, and I was going to loosen it. Just show you what I was going to do, and put it in underneath. And then this end, solder it to the body of the light socket. But fortunately, I don't have to do that. And I hope when you do it, train man, you don't have to also put the extra neutral wire. But if you do, that's how you do it. Well, that's how I did it. So what we'll do now is just solder, as I mentioned, the positive wire of the fixture. I'll just take the bulb out, I don't want to damage it. And we're going to solder it right over there. Now what I did also is I just pre-soldered the tip, make it easier to solder it. So let me get the soldering gun. I had to add an extension wire, get the connection pliers, and we'll just solder this. Well, she's soldered. So now we'll take the engine out of the vise and we'll put it on the track. We'll put the bulb back in. This should work. Let's put some power on and let's see. There it is. And that's how you install a light in the Army switcher. Well, T-Man, I hope you enjoyed the video. Everyone out there, have a great day. Take care now. Bye.